Optimized my bottlenecks, removed redundant pointer checks. The database's subselects are indexed to a T. They shaved the microseconds down till there was nothing left to count. I instantaneously found the answer in a breeze. But I've been feeling so alone. Nobody here's called me from a function or a phone. If I'm dead code, let me die.
It's the Monday Morning Show. Today is March 23rd, 2015. I'm Ken LaSalle. That's Josh Woodward singing Dead Code. You can find out more about Josh at joshwoodward.com. You can find out more about me at kenlasalle.com. Water. The most plentiful element on the planet? Well, not really if you're looking to drink it. And sadly, one of the consequences of climate change is that some people are going to find it harder and harder to have a drink. Some of those people live where I live, in sunny, really sunny, far too sunny, Southern California. We're in the middle of an astronomical drought, and the worse it gets, the less we seem to want to do about it. We're really banking on that miracle storm, and I think we're overdrawn. This week, I would like to talk about water, specifically bottled water, because the wasteland we're making of our planet stems from things like laziness, plastic, the belief that just because we can do something we should, and apathy, which is little more than fear dressed in laziness's cloak. And you know, the bottled water industry relies on all of those things. Now, I'm going to sound like an old man here, too bad, but when I was a kid growing up in the 1970s, bottled water was considered a joke. After all, why would you pay some exorbitant price for a bottle of water when you could just drink from the tap? Hell, we drank from a garden hose. What changed all that? The answer, as always, is good propaganda, good PR. We were convinced that tap water was dirty, that drinking from a hose would bring disease. We were inundated with commercials that told us bottled water tasted better, was better for us, and was something we couldn't live without. And we bought it. We bought it all, hook, line, and billions upon billions of plastic bottles. Even after mountains of research showed that bottled water tasted no better, we believed it. Even when bottled water was proven to be far less healthy, we believed it. Even after plastic bottles littered our streets, our shores, and filled our oceans with islands of plastic gunk, we bought it all. Now, I'm not saying that there's no place for bottled water. Heck, there's nothing better when you're out in the middle of nowhere than a nice chilled bottle of water. But the bottled water industry only wants you to hear, "There's nothing better," without considering that you should probably only drink it when you're out in the middle of nowhere. And even then, you could easily fill your own bottle. But don't tell the bottled water people that, because we're talking about an ungodly amount of money to be made on what is essentially a free product. Bottled water companies often just turn on a city tap and sell what comes out for pure profit. Here's just a few statistics on bottled water that might surprise you. Global consumption of bottled water increases by 10% each year. That's right, despite there being very little need for this product, more and more people want it. Why is that? Because people are lazy. They want something easy. And think about the last time you bought bottled water. You probably felt pretty good about yourself because you didn't buy soda, right? It's easy to be lazy when you can also pat yourself on the back for it. The biggest enemy is tap water, said a Pepsi VP in 2000. When we're done, tap water will be relegated to irrigation and washing dishes, said Susan D. Wellington of Quaker Oats, the maker of Gatorade. But it's more than just words. Coca-Cola has been in the business of discouraging restaurants from serving tap water and pushing less water and more beverage choices. The price of tap water in California is about 560 times less expensive than bottled water. Knowing this, why would we consider buying bottled? Well, mostly because the bottled water industry has invested a lot of money into making sure you don't know that fact. Their propaganda has convinced you of all sorts of things. For instance, why do you buy bottled water? Can't you just fill a bottle from the tap? Sure you can. But you've been convinced that there's something about bottled water you can't live without. When really, there's a lot about bottled water you can't live with. Consider how much money it takes to build the plants that make the plastic bottles. Consider how much pollution that creates, in addition to the pollution created when those bottles are trucked all over the place. Can you live with all of that pollution? Can your children? Consider the convenience you get out of that bottled water, and then consider the death of our oceans. As more plastic leaches into the water, it's killing the fish. It makes the waters uninhabitable. Is that really worth the cost? Not only is bottled water not safe for your children, or your children's children, it's not safe for you. Bottled water goes untested for the most part, while tap water undergoes rigorous tests by the government for your safety. Basically, the bottled water industry has conned you the same way the tobacco industry conned their customers. After all, what does your health matter? Now, I know in the middle of a drought you'll take whatever water you can get, right? But what about when bottled water companies steal what little water we have left? Which is exactly what the Nestle company has been doing. According to extensive reporting in the Desert Sun and IndieBay.org, Nestle has been stealing water from Californians so they can sell it back to them as bottled water. I'll post a link to the Desert Sun in the show notes, but here's just a few excerpts from their article. In an investigation of the industry's water footprint in the San Bernardino National Forest and other parts of California, the Desert Sun found that no state agency is tracking exactly how much water is used by all the bottled water plants in California, or monitoring the effects on water supplies and ecosystems statewide. The California Department of Public Health regulates 108 bottled water plants in the state, collecting information on water quality and the sources tapped. But the agency says it does not require companies to report how much water they use. That information, when collected piecemeal by state or local agencies, often isn't easily accessible to the public. In some cases, the amounts of water used are considered confidential and not publicly released. Even as Nestle Waters has been submitting required reports on its water use, the Forest Service has not been closely tracking the amounts of water leaving the San Bernardino National Forest and has not assessed the impacts on the environment. While the Forest Service has allowed Nestle to keep using an expired permit for nearly 3 decades, the agency has cracked down on other water users in the national forest. Several years ago, for instance, dozens of cabin users were required to stop drawing water from a creek when their permits came up for renewal. Nestle has faced no such restrictions. Only this year, after a group of critics raised concerns in letters and after the Desert Sun inquired about the expired permit, did Forest Service officials announce plans to take up the issue and carry out an environmental analysis. Now, I know it sounds like our government is okay with it, so you may be wondering why we shouldn't be. Well, the answer is because corporations like Nestle have seen to it, in their lobbying efforts and in drafting legislation the politicians they legally bribe then introduce, to make things look this way. They make sure oversight agencies, such as the Forest Service, remain underfunded. They created the nightmare of overregulation, as if that could possibly exist in a government so bent on letting corporations do whatever they want. This is what happens when we allow legal bribery, which we've done with Citizens United. Government agencies once meant to protect U.S. citizens now bend over backwards to protect corporations because, as we so often hear, corporations are considered people. How do you change this? It's very easy. Stop buying bottled water. Don't buy it. Don't drink it. Don't sit quietly by as others act like there's nothing wrong with it. Bottled water brings exactly the opposite result they promise. It makes you less healthy. It makes our water less healthy. It makes our planet less healthy. Why should we stand for that? In keeping with the bottled water theme for this week, I'm happy to share the cool thing for this week. As reported in the San Francisco Examiner, San Francisco has become the first city to ban the sale of plastic water bottles. Now, it's not a perfect solution to the problem. I'm sure the bottled water industry will be selling their product at a discount right on the city lines, but it is a great step in the right direction. Plastic is the bane of our times, and we have to stop thinking about it as benign. We will still need it in our lives, but we don't need to keep creating tons of waste each and every day. Here's how the ban will work, according to the Examiner. During the next 4 years, the ban will phase out the sales of public water bottles holding 21 ounces or less on city property, indoor or outdoor, which will impact park vendors, food truck operators, street fairs, and places like the Moscone Center Convention Facility. Waivers are permissible if an adequate alternative water source is not available. And let's face it, there is an alternative to bottled water for everyone who lives near a faucet, spigot, water fountain, or garden hose. We have to start thinking about how our actions affect our lives, and we've got to get better at how we do that. Our lives and the lives of our children depend on that. This episode is brought to you by my new audiobook, The Most Amazing Book You've Ever Heard in Your Entire Life. That's right, heard. This book is only available in audio, and you can find it on Audible.com and iTunes. Take a journey unlike any you've experienced before with illiterature books. When has a book ever showed you the view from the top of Mount Everest, or accompanied you to the moon, or picked up lunch? But you'll find all of that and much more in the first title by Illiterature Books, The Most Amazing Book You've Ever Heard in Your Entire Life. Just make sure you're worth it. Take a trip across our known world and beyond. You'll not only experience the highest point on Mount Everest, nearly, the depths of a live volcano, and the surface of the moon, you'll also learn a few secrets along the way. You'll discover why ownership isn't as possible as you've been told, why straight lines never are, and why there aren't as many new masterworks from the Renaissance as there probably should be. Discover the pitfalls of aesthetic judgments while somehow also learning the meaning of truth and beauty. And learn how it's not always the lies we are told that cause us problems. Sometimes it's the truth you don't see right in front of you. And that's the Monday Morning Show for March 23rd, 2015. Be sure to check back next week for another episode. Head on down to kenlasalle.com for all the latest. You can find my ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks all over, etc., etc., etc. You have yourself a terrific week. Be good to yourself. Be kind to others. Let's make this world a better place.
I've been feeling so alone. Nobody here has called me from a function or a phone. If I'm dead, code, let me die. 'Cause I'm only wasting memory alive. If I'm dead, code, wipe the drive. 'Cause I'd rather be a memory than a ghost who's still alive.